Very warm welcome. Welcome to the online futures trading webinar with myself, Charles Cochran. Brian, great to see you back. I've been thinking about you with gold rallying so well recently, so I hope you've been having a good times on gold's rally. Very good morning, Carolyn, Konstantinos, Adair, Ryan. Good to have the regulars here. Oh, brilliant. Good. Been thinking of you on that gold rally. Hey, Ryan. Morning, Carolyn. Konstantinos, how's life in Greece? Adair, good to see you. I know. I was in the silver run on that, but I've closed my silver longs out now just ahead of event risk. But there looked like there was more to go in it, but hey ho. And been euro dollar longs for the start of this week. All right, folks. Good to see you all. Looking forward to the session. And the big, huge driver that all the markets are sort of sat in is interest rate expectations. Fed meeting on Wednesday, and the expectations is that they're going to cut by 25 basis points. That's fully priced in, outside chance of 50 basis point rate cut. I could see a case of a 50 basis point rate cut coming. We've got a weaker job market. We've got benign inflation. We've got folks clamoring at the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. Trueflation is at 2%. Importers aren't passing on any tariff costs initially to US consumers. And that sort of throughput from tariffs to consumers is not obviously there. So I don't think a 50 basis point cut can be ruled out entirely. And that, of course, would provide a decent opportunity for more dollar weakness on a big flush. So that'd be a great one for a gold long, for instance. Now, Fed's meeting tomorrow. We've also got the Bank of England meeting Thursday. And the markets are just sort of sitting in that warm glow of positive US-China trade news, more reasons for dollar weakness. There's a benign geopolitical lull for now, and that's making markets pro-risk. So just going to turn the squawk on. So we've got that working. So looking at equity markets, we continue to run higher. NASDAQ jumping up higher today, and we've got the volatility pushing higher with Europe down, but the US futures market up. Now, you could see a little bit of this sentiment waning as we come into the session, but broadly speaking, the sentiment is positive. We just had a little bit of negative news that the US is reportedly going to consider imposing new national security tariffs on additional imported auto parts. So that's hit some of the European names like BMW and Volkswagen just slipping on that, but we'll see how that develops. Looking at the bond space, there's been a steady bid into US treasuries just in expectations of those Fed interest rate cuts. That's been carrying on. We've seen upside in gold, as discussed, silver, copper. That nice moves to the upside.
Commentary from Brazil's finance minister Haddad says we can look to the near future with more of optimism regarding a balance between interest rates and FX rate.
Right, this nice drop down in the dollar as well, and that lifting the majors. We had euro dollar longs from the start of the week and from Friday, where I initiated those euro dollar longs, retested that trend line, so that's moving nicely into profit. I'm just going to leave and try and run that, maybe take that off before the Fed tomorrow. I'll see where I'm at with that. So that's working well. The other trades that I've got on, that Oracle trade, which is very nice on this big, nice sort of flag pattern, very...
Around 10 minutes time, we are looking out for a bit more US data. Industrial production due for the month of August, that's seen falling down 0.1%. Capacity utilization, that's seen moving slightly lower to 77.4%, down from 77.5%. Manufacturing output, that's seen it down 0.2% after being flat in the prior month.
Looking at this nice flag pattern,
just making aware, we're getting confirmation from OPEC Plus officials, according to Reuters, citing sources. They are to discuss production capacity in Vienna. So this lines up with what we heard from Kepler
coming up
earlier.
For this weekend is the OPEC Plus meeting. Very nice here. You got this nice flag pattern here. Now these are nice when you get this. See, this is a typical flag pattern up. And then when you get it coming sharply back against the trend, that's really lovely. And that's what we've got. We've got that sharp pullback against the trend. Entered yesterday at that 300 big round number. Currently we're at 314 pre-market with news that Oracle could be one of the companies involved with running TikTok if the US gets hold of TikTok and they get it off China.
Update on fiscal policy in the US. Speaker Johnson just told Punchbowl the House will vote on a new 7-week government funding bill on Friday. He hopes to release the text by midday.
Silver, we'll happily buy this on any dips. Right? If we get down to that sort of 39-40 region, I wouldn't mind that on any dips at the moment. I think silver's going to be testing all-time highs up at that sort of 50 region, so that's worth being aware of. Gold technically broke out beautifully from this, really like an elong. We were looking at this yesterday in Najam, if you remember. We were looking, can you buy gold into...
Update on geopolitics via Bloomberg. The Houthis say that air defenses are currently confronting Israeli aircraft.
Could you buy gold into the Fed meeting? And the answer was yes, you can. And you got this nice breakout here of this trend line. That was the entry here, around here we saw it. So that's carried on up. That makes sense. You either take profit or try and run it into the Fed meeting. Either are fine. So you're kind of like it's not really a symmetrical triangle pattern, but it's a kind of symmetrical triangle pattern, very elongated. Really, it's just like a trend line break. And then we're having the same kind of thing here, like a mini flag pattern that was just developing yesterday. A bit hard to see because it's a bit easier to see on the higher time frames. Here, basically like this, kind of a mini weird flag pattern and breaking out there on rising on balance volume. You see here the on balance volume picking up. Now that's a good proxy for volume, and you can just see that was confirmed there. Very hard to see because of there it is. There it is, breaking out here, that structure on balance volume. So that's still going nice. It didn't take. That's one for you, Brian. I'm sure you've been doing other things. I don't know if you took that actually. That was not a bad little break, that 3645. You may have been in there. Oh, you did. Great minds think alike. Well done, Brian. That's great stuff. Lovely. Very nice. So, that's good to know. Karen's had some good trades here on the NASDAQ recently. And Najam had a good one on the NASDAQ yesterday. I think Ryan was keeping his powder dry yesterday, and I had a good day yesterday because I was trading in the afternoon session as well. That went well, folks. So let's have a look at what we got now. So in the ES, we're in that sort of Fed little window. Things start to quieten down from now, but we could have a little bit of movement. Looking at the data front, right, we've got US retail sales which are coming out. What markets are going to be looking at for that is one thing really only, and that is their import costs being passed on to the US consumer. That's really what markets want to see. Import prices are a bit higher, 0.3%. Where are they? Import prices, 0.3%. Export prices, 0.3%. So a little bit of upside pressure there. And the question is, will that start to flow through to the US consumer? If it is, that's sort of more negative because it's an inflationary, stagflationary environment. Other than this, it's going to be the Fed meeting now. We had German ZEW data out showing weak current conditions, but positive forward-looking sentiment. So the current conditions tend to get more of a focus, but markets are just sort of caught up in that weak dollar story. So that's lifting the euro dollar. And remember what's driving this euro dollar. Like, this is being driven for powerful reasons. And you can see this on the yield spread here, on the 10-year yield spread. And the reason for that yield spread driving up between German bunds and the US 10-year yields is that the ECB has kind of finished cutting interest rates. They're at 2%, and they finished it. Whereas the Federal Reserve is about to start cutting interest rates. So remember, FX markets, it's relative. So relative to one another, we got the Fed cutting rates with ECB's on hold. So that's euro dollar upside. Hey, Najam. So that's what's going on. Having a look at the...
Also says he is calling Myron on the Senate confirmation. Should be aware Trump currently speaking to reporters before he heads off to the UK for the scheduled visit.
Okay, ES, Globex open sentiment is positive, but look here on the hourly chart.
That the Federal Reserve needs to be independent.
Sellers, trap buyers, right? Got a clear sort of sell bias that's coming in from the VWAP. And if you look at the Globex open, you can see we're rejecting that point of control. So we're sort of stuck within balance from the Globex open, heading towards balance low. Got the value area high from yesterday. So when we look at this on the 15-minute chart, we're in balance from the US session, right? With a balance high sitting about that 6,678.
Finance Minister says we estimate that gross revenue from betting firms is currently between 30 to 40 billion real.
Right, you saw sellers came in here, trapped buyers against this level. We had a pullback to the VWAP, and that's just seen a little bit of selling. So at the moment, what we've got is those buyers up there getting trapped against the VWAP. So when it comes to the open, right?
Now approaching 1 minute to the latest set of US data to be released. Industrial production seen down 0.1%. Capacity utilization seen modestly lower at 77.4%. Manufacturing output seen down 0.2%.
So what we're going to look for at the open is pushing up above and trapping these sellers will be a good opportunity to go long, right? Because that will be pushing us back up above that point of control and have maybe a run up to the R1, maybe higher, right? Otherwise, if these buyers get trapped, then it's a pullback to the VWAP looking to sell off against that level. So we're going to come back closer to the open to see if there's anything there, but there's nothing to do at the moment. Just going to wait for the US Open and take it from there. But you can see Globex Open, yes, Delta, cumulative delta is positive, but look, lots of trap those buyers. On the 15-minute, sellers trap buyers, sellers trap buyers. The bias are clearly lower. But we've got this value area high from yesterday. So we're currently opening in balance to the upside, but near term, the sellers are in control. So you'd be looking for some kind of basing at the 6,678 to go long would be right. Otherwise, just keeping a careful eye on the VWAP here. If we can push above that VWAP, trap those sellers, then we can look to go long from there. All right, folks.
Industrial production, that's up 0.1% above the expected down 0.1%. Manufacturing output up 0.2%. Beating expectations. Capacity utilization in line 77.4%. So industrial production, that's growing 0.1%, beating market's expectations of a decline by 0.1%. The prior was revised, however, down negative 0.4%. Capacity utilization 77.4%. Prior revised down to 77.4%, so unchanged there on month over month. Manufacturing output up 0.2%. Just going back to US President Trump, says we'll be announcing the buyer for TikTok. Trump announcing we'll be announcing the buyer for TikTok.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. That stock's going to get a rally, whoever buys TikTok. Folks, I'll leave the squawk on. Yeah, so US President, so he's been announcing the buy for TikTok. Now, let's just see. I know Oracle were rumored to be one of the, and this was the long that I took yesterday. Oracle pre-market is down 311. It was up 318. So I use a 212, Brian, at the moment. UK based.
More from Trump says we have a deal on TikTok.
So Trump's got a deal on TikTok. Be interesting to see who this is. Just going to hang around for that. They've got, the thing I like about 212 is they've got so many different instruments.
Just a bit of geopolitical context on those Houthi remarks of Israeli attacks. Those strikes targeted the Hodeidah port docks.
And you can get ETFs, you can do shares, you can do spot FX. So the amount of financial instruments is just so wide. And you see, I mainly use that for swing trading. So I'm not too worried about the fill. Now, I think if Trump announcing the buyer for TikTok, if it was Oracle, I would have thought Oracle would have picked up a bit more. It's got these. This is one of the companies rumored to buy TikTok. I mean, I went long on it yesterday.
And more from Trump with regards to UK trade.
Yeah.
He wants the UK. He says the UK wants to discuss tweaks to the trade pact, and he is willing to listen.
Just makes it easy to manage wealth because the range of instruments. And so if you want to buy sort of some, often I was finding with typical brokers is they might be good on FX or good on stocks, but it was very hard to find one that could do a whole range of like bonds and stocks and ETFs. With 212 did that, but their spot FX is terrible. I wouldn't use them for spot FX because the way the spreads widen, they just become enormous. So have a look, but I wouldn't recommend them for spot FX. I get a specialist broker for that. And some of the conventions are very different. The way they run their platform, it can take a bit of getting used to.
For those who track the weekly,
yeah, I have tried it. IG are good as well, Najam. And it's interactive. Interactive Brokers is the one, really. They're very good. I've used them before as well. You just got to make sure the FCA regulation is there. All right, okay. The other news, Brian, is Najam's had a son. So we've been, that's the other big news you missed. How's it going, Najam? Oh, You're having a son, aren't you? It's due to arrive. Yeah, you haven't got the tired new baby situation yet. All right, there's obviously nothing forthcoming from Trump at the moment. Just notice here, Delta positive, but sellers trapping buyers. This is an area of interest around that VWAP. Just watch to check if you get sort of buyers getting trapped up against that level, then that could be a potential selling opportunity with those buyers getting trapped there. So just keep an eye on that. Otherwise, buyers trapping sellers here, then it's a definite buy opportunity. Okay, sellers. Okay, buyers coming in. See if they come up into that standard deviation. Right. Let's see how they react here. Is that the bottom in? Or is there more selling? Get underneath those buyers. I could look for a run. If those buyers get trapped there, then I'd look for a sell. Okay, so I'm gonna look for these buyers if they get trapped. Right, they get trapped, so I've gone for a quick sell there. Okay, taking one off there. Okay. Okay. So taking the profit down at that level, that was all fine. Okay, so let's look where we're at. Taking a quick short down to this level, now at that value area high. Right, so this is a kind of turnaround zone now. But the delta is negative, so I don't want to risk that, right? So I'm just going to wait. You got 5-minute sellers. Let's see what happens with these 15-minute. We could see a bit more selling come in here.